Welcome to our introduction to Vertex Form of quadratic functions. Today we're going to identify the vertex and axis of symmetry from a quadratic equation in its vertex form. So as a reminder, make sure you're taking good notes, you're asking lots of questions, and if you always need further clarification, please come to tutoring. So let's get started. What you see before you on the screen is the vertex form of a quadratic function. So the a value, we should be familiar with our a value when we looked at our quadratic function in standard form. Okay, a value is the same a as a quadratic function in standard form. Okay, it's going to tell us if our parabola opens up or if our parabola opens down. Okay, good rule of thumb is if a is positive, remember positive makes us happy, so our parabola is going to open up. And if our a value is negative, well, negative makes us sad, so that is going to be a parabola that opens down. Okay, so very similar, exact same as that a value in standard form. We get our h and our k, so these are two new. Okay, this h and our k are from our vertex of our parabola. So remember, prior to this, in our previous lesson, we were able to find our vertex by first finding our x value in our axis of symmetry using our formula. Remember, that was that opposite b over 2a. And that gave us our x value of our vertex. And then we plugged that x value in to find our y. Well, the great thing about vertex form is if we know how to read the formula and the form, this vertex form gives us the vertex in it. That's why it's called vertex form. Okay. So this h value represents the x coordinate of the vertex. Okay, so h is the same as that x value. Okay, so that x value of that equation is the same as our x. Okay, so axis of symmetry, that's it right there. That x value, which is our h. Okay, no longer, if we have it in vertex form, we do not have to put it into that formula. We just know that any number or any variable that's right here, that is going to be pulled out into our x value. Okay. Where we do need to be careful in using this vertex form is if you see this, look at this, notice the minus sign, okay? That minus sign is part of the formula, okay? So if we have a vertex that, say, has an x value of a positive 5, when we're looking at it in vertex form, you are going to see it written like this, okay? Because that 5 is positive. Okay? That negative sign is part of the equation. So we know that 5 is positive. If for some reason we were looking at a parabola with a vertex of, say, a negative 5, you may see it as written this way. Okay? And think about it, why is that? Well, because if I have a minus sign part of my equation, and then I have that negative 5, sorry, ran out of room here, okay, that negative 5, well, we know that two negatives make a positive. So that's where we need to be very careful when we're looking at our h value in vertex form. We need to understand that if that negative is still there in the equation when we're pulling that h out, then that h value is positive. But if we take a look at a vertex form that it is a positive h, well, we know that that vertex is negative. I know it sounds confusing, but we'll practice it and it should make better sense once we put it into practice. So we know that an x value is only 1/2 of the vertex. We also need the y value. So if h is our x value of our vertex, what do you think our y value is? Did your eyes draw to this k? You are correct. That is the y value of the vertex. Okay, and notice there is an addition sign here. Okay, so a plus k means that the y value of our vertex is positive, and a minus k means that the y value of our vertex is negative. Let's take a look at some examples. So let's take a look at this first example. Okay, looking at this, it is written in vertex form. Remember, vertex form is that a and that x minus h squared plus k. Okay, and we have that. Okay, this is our h value, this is our k value, and this here is our a value. Now, you may not see there's a number in between that minus sign in those parentheses, but it's there. Hopefully you identified that there is a number 1 right there. So here we're asked to identify the vertex, the axis of symmetry, and the parabola direction. Well, let's start from the bottom to the top. Let's start with parabola direction. So we always will look at our a value. So remember, if our a value is positive, it means that our parabola is trending up, makes us happy. If it's negative, negative makes us sad, it should be trending down. So I am hoping, and you should have identified that in this one, our parabola is going to be negative because we have that negative a value. Okay. Now let's look at our axis of symmetry. Okay. Our axis of symmetry is the x value of our vertex. Okay, we're looking for the x value of our vertex. Well, remember, in vertex form, the x value is the same as our h value. Okay, what is our h value? Well, it's right here. It's a 4. And remember, the subtraction sign is part of the formula. So our h value is positive, which means our axis of symmetry is also positive. We have that x equals 4. And then finally, we are asked to locate and find our vertex. Remember, our vertex is nothing more than our h value and our k value. Okay, so our vertex here is 4, because that's our h value, and our k value here is 1. That's it. Try this next one on your own. Okay, first, yes, it is written in vertex form. Okay, we have our a, remember our x, our x minus our h value, and that is squared. Okay, and then our k value. So here, let's identify our players. So you should have identified this as your a value, this as your h value, and this as your k value. So looking at our vertex, axis of symmetry, and parabola direction. So let's start with our parabola direction. Look at your a value. Ask yourself, is your a value positive or negative? It is positive, so you know that it opens up. Next, let's look at our axis of symmetry. In vertex form, our axis of symmetry, which is our x value, is the same, equals our h value in vertex form. Now be mindful. Remember, this negative sign is part of the equation. So take a look at what do we show as our H value in this vertex form. Well, here it is positive 5. Okay, positive 5. So in order for this to have been a positive 5, what did your H value have to be to make that a positive 5? You are correct. It should have been a negative. So your axis of symmetry is that negative 5. Now we'll look and identify our vertex. Okay, our vertex is our H value, comma, our K. You already said our H value is that negative 5. And our K value is that negative 7. Make sure you take that sign with it. And that's it. That is your final answer. And in case it was hard to see with the writing on the previous page, here it is. I've typed it all out for you just as a reminder. So I hope that you have enjoyed this mini lesson of quadratic functions in vertex form and being able to identify the vertex and the axis of symmetry.